What's going on, guys? It's Talking with Leek here, and I'm back at it with another video. And if you just started your investing journey today, don't overcomplicate it. Here's the exact 70, 20, 10% portfolio I would choose if I had to restart today. All right, guys, so this is the 70% portion of our portfolio, and it's simple. It's the S&P 500. What is the S&P 500? It's the top 500 publicly traded companies in America, and this is weighted by market cap, which is what VOO is. So meaning basically the biggest companies make up the largest portion of the index. So you don't have to worry about, hey, is Apple number one right now? Are they holding their weight in VOO like that? You don't have to worry about that. It's automatically calculated. So when companies like Apple, Microsoft, or Amazon, when they grow, your investment grows as well. Using something like VOO gives you like immediate diversification, like immediate. I'm talking about sectors like tech, finance, healthcare, and more. It's all in one investment, and that's why VOO is so good. Historically, the S&P 500 has averaged around 8 to 10% over the long term, which is why it's the foundation of most portfolios and the foundation of this portfolio. So this is where consistency will do the heavy lifting for you. And it's just a process. You have to trust the process. It's not instant gratification, but you're also in a stable investment. When the market's down, more than likely that 70% is going to be down. But when the market's up, that 70% is going to be up and possibly even higher. So this is the beginning of the portfolio, but honestly, one of the most important parts. Next, 20% goes into the growth. This is where you don't invest in the index that we just mentioned, and you invest in individual companies with the potential to outperform the market. What does that mean? So instead of owning everything like we do in the last 70% section, which is the S&P 500, you're being selective. You're focusing on companies with strong revenue growth, market dominance, and future upside. So think of companies like Apple, think of companies like Tesla, think of companies like Nvidia. Each of those three, one is, one of the leaders in cell phones. Another is a leader in the electric vehicle industry. Another is a leader in the chip manufacturing industry. So these businesses have already proven themselves, but still have room to grow. So this portion introduces slight volatility. If you guys are in tune to it, you'll see that Tesla dropped recently because of some things with their full self-driving. But it also gives you the opportunity to beat the market over time. So just because it drops doesn't mean it's a bad thing. A lot of people buy the dip. That's one of the famous sayings in investing. And this is just to get you accustomed to seeing these things. The key here is discipline, but not chasing the hype. Choose quality. I know everybody's on Palantir right now, but like, hey, it's probably a great time to be on Palantir, but does that mean that you chase it when it's on the way up, or do you wait on the way down? So these are some of the things you have to think about and, really put into thought like, hey, am I choosing a good stock? Am I choosing a good quality product rather than this is the next thing to blow up? All right, and on to the last 10%. And this is the experimental bucket. So this is where you can test ideas and actually understand how investing works. That could be through trying different sectors, smaller companies, even short-term strategies, but that controlled risk makes you a better investor over time. The key here is we're only on 10%. So the 10% mistakes won't hurt you, but the lessons will compound and make you a better investor. And this can look different depending on where you are in life. So let's say me, I'm young, I'm 25, early in my investment journey, and I believe in this young tech company. And they come out, they're $20 a stock, a share, whatever you want to say. And I buy a lot of it. And let's say their share price goes up to 500. I'm going to reap all those gains because I believed in them early. There's a downside to that too. They can just plummet and I lose my whole investment. But this is why it's 10% of our portfolio. We're not throwing out everything we have into these, not so hot companies and not so proven companies. And this can look different depending on where you are in your investment life cycle. So if you're a little bit later in it and you're focusing on income, this is where I would probably say focus on a dividend ETF like SCHD. It has a good payout. This is companies that have proven dividend payouts. So over time, you learn on where you can improve in this section, and that applies to the other 90%. All right, guys. So to do a quick recap on the portfolio, it's essentially built around three core ideas. First, the 70% in the S&P 500. That's your foundation. It gives you the exposure to top companies in the US and steady long-term growth. Next, the 20% growth. This is when you focus on strong, proven companies with high upside, but also may offer a little bit more volatility. And the final 10% is where you learn. It's where you test ideas, take controlled risk, and build real experience over time. Remember, guys, the goal is not to be perfect. It's just to stay consistent, it's to keep learning, and it's really to let the compounding do the work. And remember, this isn't a framework for everybody. This can always be adjusted based on your goals, your age, and your risk appetite. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know if you'll be implementing this in your investment strategy.